the goal for this session is to impart to you 3 critical principles for success. And what I've done is put together some illustrations that I hope will help the principles stick in your mind. And at the end of this session, we're going to have a little quiz, and I'm going to see who can tell me what the 3 principles are. So hopefully these word pictures will get the message across. All right, let's see if it works. So 3 principles for success. We're going to talk about automated tools that you can use to implement these principles, and also test methods that mitigate project risk. We're going to talk about the need to do some testing in order to mitigate the risk of poor performance in the field. The first principle is to avoid the pit of despair. Now, I've met some of you who, I think probably 2 or 3 years ago, you had stars in your eyes. RFID was a great new technology. The sky's the limit. You're excited. And then about 18 months ago or so, you tried it. You gave it a try. You tried to tag a metal object with an alien squiggle. And lo and behold, it didn't work. And so you thought, geez, I'm in the pit of despair. I don't know what to do here. All right, I'm in pain. My project is not going where I want to go. But the good news is, you're here, which means that you've come back out of the pit of despair. Now, some of you are starting with stars in your eyes. I've talked to many of you. And a couple of you need to be aware of some pitfalls that are inherent to different types of projects. So we're going to talk about 3 types of projects and some of the pitfalls that are inherent to those types of projects. So, principle number 1, avoid the pit of despair. Principle number 2, clear communication is key. Now you might wonder what a deep space probe has to do with RFID, multi-$100-million program that generated gigabytes of data, which helped us understand our universe and even our existence to a better extent. Huge value. NASA, a few years ago, had a miscommunication between JPL and its other engineering group. And there was a miscalculation of the trajectory of the first Mars probe. Obviously, the latest Mars probe was a tremendous success. But as a result of that miscommunication, the probe missed its orbit, bounced off the atmosphere of Mars, and as a result, a $125 million communication error. So we're going to try to help you avoid making communication errors of your own using automated tools to help propagate the important information that you need to get out to your organization in order to achieve success in RFID. Clear communication is key. Principle number 3, measure twice, cut once. My father taught me this. And apparently the fathers of this Italian cathedral taught them the same lesson. They took it to heart. Beautiful cathedral in a very small town in Italy. This is actually in the small town of Pisa. And unfortunately, the Bell Tower Committee didn't take this principle to heart. And as a result, the Leaning Tower of Pisa is a world-renowned mistake, which, by the way, could be resolved, but the town has decided it's too much of a tourist attraction to go to the effort of actually straightening it, so they intentionally keep it leaning today. But you don't want to become famous for a mistake. So measuring twice and cutting once is a very critical principle, particularly in RFID, where the physics of RFID merit that level of attention to detail. All right, so principle number 1. Let's flesh these out a little bit. Don't fall into pits of despair. 3 project categories. Now, all of these categories have their place. And we've seen the industry evolve. I'll tell you, 2 and 3 and 4 years ago, most of what was done in the industry were custom-built solutions, because there really was no definition within industries around where the value lies. And there wasn't common agreement or consensus about what the important applications are. Today, we're now seeing off-the-shelf solutions being introduced to the market. And as that happens, that's clearly a step forward in the evolution of this technology. It's a needed capability, but the vast majority of what RFID is capable of doing has not even been identified yet. So don't limit the scope of what you envision RFID doing to the off-the-shelf solution market. There's a lot that can be done if people are willing to take a bit of a risk. The third category is novel solutions. So as users continue to be encouraged to look at RFID as the industry continues to progress and improve. They're thinking more creatively, and they're thinking, man, if I had this type of hardware, I could do this type of process. And it would actually integrate more seamlessly than anything available off the shelf. And so what we're seeing is a lot of people and end users coming to us saying, you know what, guys, if I could do this, it would be tremendous value in my organization. Can you help me do that? Now, these tend to be more like research and development types of projects, and I'm going to give you some examples of each one of these. So if you think about cost versus innovation, obviously there are economies of scale associated with off-the-shelf solutions that are very attractive because you're using the same types of hardware, the same software packages together, the business relationships are well established, and so they tend to be more affordable and relatively low risk. Custom-built solutions require pulling together a unique set of software and hardware elements, but there are advantages. You get to define the workflows. You get to think of exactly what you want your users to see and what you think is going to resonate most effectively with them. And then, of course, novel solutions tend to have a risk element as well as a cost element associated with them. But the rewards are tremendous, particularly not only for enterprises, but also for individuals who take the initiative to envision the future and think about how RFID can impact their organization. Any question about these three categories? We're going to spend a few minutes sort of fleshing them out. So a description of off-the-shelf solutions tend to be low risk, as I mentioned. They're proven technology and value, and they tend to center around proven value within an industry vertical. The potential pitfalls, unproven solution providers. As the industries evaluate and determine what use cases are most relevant to them, you're going to see a lot of vendors sort of glom on to those things. And the result will be people claiming to be providers that simply don't have the experience and track record to validate their position in the market. Don't overlook the nuances. Even with solution packages, it's extremely important to understand the nuances of the integration process in particular, data formats and flows and transactions between systems. And don't trivialize the software integration and support. These tend to drive timelines, particularly in custom-built solutions. So here's an example. Which we've already learned a little bit about. Depew is a classic example of taking an established set of hardware and software components, packaging them together, and then rolling them out across J&J, for example, across the non-pharmaceutical healthcare industry. And we're not going to belabor this because you've already become acquainted with it. Custom-built solutions tend to have moderate risk, meaning that others of your peers in your industry have not necessarily identified this as valuable. But you know your organization, you know there's value to be had there, and so it makes sense for you to take the time and make the investment to put those pieces together. The custom screens and workflows that can flow out of that can benefit your organization more than your competition, and can be a very valuable way of applying the technology. What you want to avoid, because there is an added cost element here, you want to avoid taking an off-the-shelf solution and attempting to force it into custom-built requirements. If you want to define the workflows, then you need to go through the process, the design process of identifying exactly what those flows are so they're intuitive and it's comprehensive. Do not skip the design step. That leads directly into the next point of making sure that you take the time to flesh out not only the physical layer infrastructure, but actually designing the integration strategy and defining the workflows. This is a common part of our design workshop when we're working with folks to make sure that the end-to-end solution is well defined and documented. That then becomes the roadmap that a middleware partner can use to develop to, and that we can use throughout the organization to communicate what is going to be done. Don't wait to manage the integration. Set up specific milestones and get in front of your software partners, for example, to make sure that things are being developed as planned, because in our experience from a few years ago, if you wait till you're on site, it's too late. You really need to make sure there are milestones set up, which is a routine part of the way we manage projects.